Hello, my name is Ray Lopez. I am your City Council representative for District 6. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our program today, and I'm very excited to have as our guest Majid Al-Ghavri, Director of Public Works Department here in San Antonio, and Melissa Bryant, the Senior Engineer for the San Antonio River Authority, is on the show, and we'll discuss what it means to be in the flood alley and what the city's doing to keep our residents and property safe. Now I'd like to welcome to the show my first guest, Majid Al-Ghavri. Majid, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you here as well, because I've got a few questions to ask you that I think a lot of the folks out in the community want answers for. Although I got to tell you that a lot of folks are commenting very positively about the responses that our Public Works Department has given them over the course of the last few weeks in particular, with the different disastrous events that we've had with the flooding and the rain. So a lot of people know what you do because they've seen you doing it recently. But we'll give some of those that maybe didn't quite get an experience to see you and your team in action and give them a flavor of what it is that you guys do. So let's start with that. What does Public Works do on their day-to-day normal activities as opposed to whenever they're responding to a big rain event like we just had recently?
Sure. Well, we have 644 dedicated employees who perform engineering, maintenance, and right-of-way regulation for our three biggest assets: the streets, the stormwater facilities, as well as the transportation facilities that we have. We are divided into three major functions in Public Works. The first function is our planning and engineering, and those are the folks who plan the projects within the infrastructure management program, as well as design and construct those projects. We also have the operation and maintenance group, which most residents are familiar with those folks. Those are the men and women who perform pothole repairs, channel mowing, debris removal, traffic signal maintenance. And we also have the program compliance group, the contracts that we have as part of the Public Works Department, as well as the right-of-way group. And the right-of-way group specifically is in charge of maintaining the public right-of-way for the city. For example, if you have a trench cut for one of the utility companies, they would have to obtain permits and we have to inspect them. That's one of the functions of the right-of-way group in order to preserve the welfare of our infrastructure.
So that's what you guys do on a day-to-day basis, and I know that sometimes your day starts with, or maybe ends with, notice that there's going to be a lot of water coming in our direction, namely with rain or with flood, and I know that sometimes we complain that we don't get enough of it, and recently we've been kind of complaining, ease up a little bit, we've got a lot of water hit in our direction. So tell me a little bit about what your department does, how you respond, and really, what do you do whenever there's these catastrophes or these disasters with like flooding that we recently experienced? How does that change your day-to-day?
Sure. Well, because we are a first responder, we have to prepare very, very well for flood events before they happen. And we work very closely with our national weather forecast and with our emergency services to ensure that we are very well prepared. Of course, we have our monitoring staff. We have our barricade operators who are ready in advance of any storm event. During the storm event, because we're first responders, we usually are the ones who are putting the barricades for street closures, for high water crossings. We're the ones who are doing debris removal during the rain events. We are the ones who are doing quick repairs, tree limb removals. We're doing traffic signal repairs on the fly. And we're the ones who are assessing the after event in terms of repairs to larger projects. So in order for us to repair those and improve those back again to be in a good working order.
Well, I know that you guys put together a plan that says, depending on where the water comes, how you deploy that. But then there's the real specifics, and what I'm talking about is knowing exactly what's happening in each one of the communities and all that. But tell me a little bit about how you use, for example, 311 information, people calling in and reporting something, and how that influences what you do with the next dispatch team, so to speak.
Sure. Well, two things that we do. Actually, we use that information to do event management during flooding events, and we have high water detections throughout the city to address those issues, to monitor those issues. But the bigger deal is for us to get ahead of the storm, in the sense of trying to compile all that information, or the damage assessment areas, in order for us to plan regional projects or local projects that would alleviate flooding, that would ensure that we have additional capacity for water flow, we have channel improvements, we have watershed improvements, and in order for us to put those for our next order, if you will, of improvement projects. And that's done through collaboration between the Public Works Department and the Capital Improvement Management Services Department for the city of San Antonio. And of course, it's done through a larger scale with the Bay Regional Watershed Management Group, a collaboration of city, county, San Antonio River Authority, and 20 other cities.
Yeah, clearly the word collaboration that you just used a minute ago is clearly important in making sure that we do the right thing at a correct pace. And I also, one of the things that I know that your department always tells me is have the public call 311 and report what they see. Oftentimes people think, somebody else must have reported it, but you can't assume that. And we do use that data to do the next day's dispatch, to do today's dispatch, even perhaps to some extent. I know that a lot of the work that you do in these events also are related to some of the future projects that we have, and how we're going to scope those projects to make sure that while we're planning a particular, let's say a drainage area, that indeed once we've experienced some flooding in that area, would the project that we're about to do solve that problem? So a lot of collaboration happens there. Tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you know about that are happening. In particular, I think folks are interested to know in the flood areas specifically, any projects that you see that'll be helpful going forward.
Sure. Again, as you mentioned, the 311 is a great tool for us to, one, respond to specific issues, but to have that compilation of information that would help us plan our future projects. It's a great transparent tool for us to execute the immediate, but also to plan the future. Again, as part of that BRWM, the Bay Regional Watershed Management Group, is a great collaboration where we look at the hydrology, the hydraulics, the studies, the specific drainage studies that allow us to look at a specific watershed and based on priority or flood event, assess the damage areas, how many homes are in the floodplain, or how many issues we're encountering. And we set them based on a priority system, and the priority system would include factors such as, how many homes have been flooded, that God forbid any injury or death to the public, accidents, all of those. And based on those, we rank those projects. And so when opportunities such as the 2012 bond, before that the 207 bond, some of the stormwater projects that we manage in Public Works, some of the county's projects, the pay-as-you-go, the $500 million plus projects that we have, those are all great projects to have positive regional impact to flood issues that we're dealing with, such as an example is the Laddie Place that is in District 7, such as the Sealing Channel, such as the Callahan project in your district, such as an Ingram Road, low water crossing in your district as well, improvements to the Calabria Creek that happened a few years back. Those are all impactful projects that help us capture some of that flow and address some of the flooding issues, local and regional.
Great. Well, thank you for commenting on those projects in particular. I know the audience will be interested to know, and they've been asking, where are they? How are we coming along? But in the last couple of minutes that we have left, talk a little bit about just the geography in general of the northwest quadrant of the county or the city, which really incorporates District 6. I know that we've got a pretty good drop-off, right? Water that falls on the northern end of the district picks up a lot of velocity as it comes through the district and creates a lot of damage or potential damage if we don't manage it correctly. So talk about some of the dynamics of just the geography.
Sure. Well, San Antonio, as everyone is aware, is in a flash flood alley, right, from Dallas to San Antonio. Not only that, but because we are close to the Gulf Coast, we experience a lot of tropical events in the spring and the summer. So we have a lot of tropical storm with extensive rain flow and flooding issues. Not only that, but between the west side, somewhere to the south of town, there's a drop of about 1,000 feet. And so water is gonna tend to flow really fast, which exacerbates the problem. Also, because of the soil conditions that the city has, we either have rock formation,
right,
which means that we have very little soil, so the ground is not going to absorb as much water. Water is going to flow on the surface. Or we're going to have expansive soils, and once the soils swell up, it cannot absorb anymore. So all of those factors exacerbate the situation for us, and we become reactive.
Well, I know that folks are appreciative of the work that you've done. Your reactions have been good, and I thank you for that, and certainly the citizens do. And we'll be talking more about that on the other side of the after the commercial break in just a second, and letting people understand, the complexities of what's going on, but the commitment to, make sure that we do the right thing. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break to talk to Melissa Bryant.
Did you know that getting up and getting active for just 60 minutes a day is all it takes to help you get stronger, look better, and feel great?
Or that fresh fruits and veggies aren't just healthier and crunchier, they can taste better too?
Eating better and getting more active is easier than you think.
Yeah! Keep watching for some fun and easy ways to discover the magic of healthy living in your life.
America.
Let's get healthy together!
Really?
Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to our program. I'm your host, District 6 Councilman Ray Lopez. We're now going to talk to Melissa Bryant. Melissa's here with us, and I'm glad to have you here. As a matter of fact, I think you've got a lot of great information that our viewers are going to be very interested to hear the answers to some of these great questions that we have, and really to have a dialogue around what you guys do and what you really did recently when we had that, that disastrous event there during Memorial Day. So we'll talk through that. So let's start off with that.
Okay.
What does the San Antonio River Authority do?
Okay. Well, the San Antonio River Authority was created in 1937 by the state legislature.
Even before I was born.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
And in 1961, we were authorized to manage flooding, in addition to surface water quality, recreation, and many other responsibilities within the watershed.
And that was in 1961.
1961.
And since then, has the organization gotten larger, smaller? I mean, I guess, does it adjust with the growth of the area?
Yeah, we typically adjust with the growth of the area, and I must say that we've been very active in this watershed, especially with the flood control projects, the water quality improvements. We are now taking on an additional initiative with the low impact development and coordinating with our partners.
Well, I know that, partnerships, and you just mentioned that word that kind of triggers the whole discussion around, obviously, you do a lot on your own. You guys have an awful lot of subject matter expertise, and you have a lot of, institutional knowledge. But I would imagine that your partners and your partnerships are the ones that add the most value. Talk a little bit about the partnership between Sarah and the city of San Antonio.
Okay.
And in others that you think are of interest.
Well, the city of San Antonio is located in the heart of Flash Flood Alley. And so with these unique conditions of geology, geography, and climate, South Texas experiences intense rainstorm events, as well as flash flooding in the region.
And we know what those look like as of Memorial Day, right?
Right. And so the city of San Antonio, Bexar County, San Antonio River Authority, and 20 suburban cities within Bexar County have joined together to address issues within our watershed.
And that's the Bexar Regional Watershed Management Partnership.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a formal thing. And that incorporates, again, what areas?
It's the city of San Antonio, Bexar County, the San Antonio River Authority, and 20 suburban cities within Bexar County.
And those suburban cities are generally to the north of us, upstream, so to speak?
They're all over the Bexar County.
Oh, okay. All right. And the collaboration between us and them is, I guess, something that we do on a regular basis. Obviously, we don't get together every once in a while when there's an event. So how often do y'all meet, and what's the nature of those kinds of meetings?
We typically have monthly meetings. And even within the Bexar Regional Watershed Management Partnership, there's sub-meetings that we have with our counterparts at the city and the county. And so those we meet every 2 weeks.
And they provide, I guess, technical assistance and various levels of expertise and that kind of. So, what kind of experience and expertise generally comes together, and how do they mesh well?
Well, the River Authority is not authorized to spend its tax funding on capital improvement projects. And so we focus on providing technical data and technical expertise to our BRWM partners. And so this data includes flood mapping, water quality models, flood models, as well as different studies that we collaborate with the city and the county.
And that's to help us prepare for flooding based on what we think may happen.
Correct.
Unfortunately, we don't always know what's going to happen and where the water's going to fall. And I think that was something that I truly learned right after this Memorial Day event, in that it's easy to predict whenever your variables are accurate. But when you don't know, and a variable is where's the water going to fall, and sometimes if you don't know that, it's really difficult to predict. But I think you guys are doing a great job to try to figure that out. Now, the area, you've mentioned it a couple of times, the watershed and the northwest part of the city and everything. Tell me a little bit about the planning, any master planning that's happening and things of that nature within that watershed.
The River Authority is collaborating with the city and the county to work on watershed master plans. And we're trying to develop holistic watershed master plans in that they not only address the quantity of water, but also the quality of water. And so we recommend projects to the city and the county to protect life and protect property from flooding, but also to improve the water quality as well as the quality of life. And we feel with these holistic watershed master plans that we can have multi-benefit projects developed to have a more sustainable community. And so with these holistic watershed master plans, we're essentially addressing flood control issues, water quality issues, also areas where we can do stream restoration projects, and as I said before, even our low impact development initiatives. So
those maps tell us quite a bit.
Yes.
Now, tell me a little bit about these maps and really other agencies that use them. I know that a lot of questions came around from the public about, am I in a flood zone? And I don't even know if I need the insurance. Do I have to have insurance? And all those kinds of things. How do these flood maps work with that component as it relates to are you in a flood zone, and what maybe an insurance company or a mortgage company might do about that?
So the digital floodplain insurance rate maps are an online interactive map that show the 1% chance annual or 100-year floodplain.
That's what they call the 100-year flood, yeah.
Right. And so these maps essentially show which properties and roads may be at risk for flooding should we receive a certain storm event. In this instance, it would be 10 inches within 24 hours.
And how does Sarah get the data to create the maps?
Well, the River Authority has spent $12 million in addition to FEMA funding to obtain detailed topography and aerial imagery within Bexar County. And we've also updated our computerized models that essentially show how the rain behaves when it falls on the land to develop these maps.
So you take all those variables, and so like, for example, the Memorial Day event, I mean, you literally, if you had a model that said this is where the water's going to fall, you could have predicted exactly where it was going to go, right?
Right. So what we did with the Memorial Day event is we took the actual DFIRM map, the digital floodplain insurance rate map, and we actually created a model where we took the depths of water that the local residents reported receiving in their area and modeled that to determine how the area actually behaved during the storm event.
So that gives you real-time, I guess, data so that you can create your models. And who do you share that information with once you collect it and assemble it and, I guess, draw conclusions in general?
Right.
Who do you share that with, and what generally happens with that kind of information?
So we share this with the county and the city, and we assist them in trying to essentially develop a project or recommend a project that could alleviate some of the flooding in the areas that they could essentially use as one of their bond projects or any other type of funding that they come available.
So it feeds into that long-range planning, which is something you said early on in the interview, is that you guys really don't do the capital improvement management stuff. That's something that the city and the county do, but you give us the data that allow us to kind of focus on where we need to spend that money from a regional perspective.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
pretty
Yes.
much the way it works. Well, that's great. And I can tell you that we have a lot of anxious individuals, particularly in the northwest part of town, in the Leon watershed,
Right.
that are saying, what are you going to do about what happened in the past? I think what you're bringing to the table is something that can give everybody a lot of comfort, that knows that we're planning ahead, moving forward with real data as opposed to guessing where we think what's going to happen. And I know that earlier we had Majid Al-Ghafri from our Public Works Department, and in a previous show we had Mike Frisbee from our SIMS Department. And they keep on talking about they can do the work. If it's planned correctly, it will work. And I think the data that you bring to the table is
Correct.
something that gives us comfort and that it is going to be working and it's going to do well. The other last, I guess, thing that we can talk a little bit about is really those flood maps and the risk assessments that are done with it. How can someone look at those maps and then find out, gee, am I in you talked about a 100-year flood zone, am I in there? How do people go about looking at those maps and figuring out how it impacts them and maybe what they should do about it? Do you have a sense for what guidance you would give there?
We do have a website. It's the Risk Map website that is located on our the SARA website. It's www.sara-tx.org. And so visitors can essentially go to our webpage and click on the banner that has Risk Map on it. It's on the right-hand side of the page. And once they get to the website, they can look at the interactive maps and zoom in onto the floodplain maps that show whether or not they are at risk, and learn more about the risk of flooding within the San Antonio area.
Well, I know within the district, District 6, Sarah's gone out with us and talked to the community about these are the maps and this is what happens. Are there continuing efforts to do outreach into the community so that they can understand and even give more input back to you to kind of help develop the on-the-ground, so to speak, intelligence?
Right. So we do have public meetings occasionally to address some of the issues from the communities. We recently had one on flood risk mapping for the Upper San Antonio Basin. And this interactive web tool, residents can go onto the website and essentially type in their address, and if their area is not shown on the floodplain, or even if it is, they can put an issue onto the webpage of what they experienced in the past during these heavy rainfall events. The more information that we have, the better the data that we can produce, the better the mapping, and essentially coordinate with the city and the county to collaborate on projects to improve their flood risks.
Well, there's no doubt that the more information, the more succinct you guys can make your assessments. And while we were out talking to the folks in the district right after the event, everybody had their digital cameras and ready to go online and ship all this stuff off. Is that where they would go and share that?
Yes, they can go on the website and enter their information.
Well, good. Well, thank you very much for being here and providing the level of information that you did. It's very timely, and what you do is greatly appreciated. I can assure you of that, and the District 6 residents appreciate what you do. And thank you for tuning in. I'd like to once again thank my guests for taking the time off to provide us such great information about Public Works and about the San Antonio River Authority. I look forward to upcoming shows, and until that time, I'm your City Councilman Ray Lopez, and thank you again, San Antonio.
Really? Buzz, what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, smoky.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Cuando la vida es así de dura, graduarse puede ser aún más duro, pero tú puedes ayudar a José y a los estudiantes en tu comunidad a sobreponerse visitando boostup.org.
Abandoned and lost. From the dark, cold streets of the city to a cage in the local shelter, to heaven, your lap.
Did you know that getting up and getting active for just 60 minutes a day is all it takes to help you get stronger, look better, and feel great?
Or that fresh fruits and veggies aren't just healthier and crunchier, they can taste better too?
Eating better and getting more active is easier than you think.
Yeah! Keep watching for some fun and easy ways to discover the magic of healthy living in your life.
America.
Let's get healthy together!